Hello and welcome. You're watching ET Now. I'm Ruchi Bhatia. It's a momentous decision that the government took yesterday in a bid to expand their vaccination drive. The government has significantly decentralized the entire vaccine procurement process and has also reduced the eligibility now for the vaccines so that we are able to vaccinate more and more people. The government has said that if you are 18 years and above, then you will be eligible for the COVID-19 vaccine jab from the 1st of May. Let's talk about that in detail with the Principal Economic Advisor and also one of the members of the COVID-19 Vaccine Task Force, Dr. K VijayRaghavan, now joining me. Dr. Raghavan, appreciate you taking your time out and speaking with us today at ET Now. This is Ruchi Bhatia. This is a momentous decision. The government has been extremely nimble-footed. They have been taking decisions after hearing from all stakeholders. The Prime Minister has been holding meetings, and this is a time that we are seeing a steady increase in the COVID cases as well. Over 2 lakh cases being reported in every single day in the last 1 week. Given the fact that the government has opened up the vaccine process significantly now for all, talk to us about what kind of capacity expansion in terms of vaccine makers that we are looking at now. What is the numbers that we're working with?
Very much. First of all, by the way, I'm the Principal Scientific Advisor, not the Principal Economic Advisor. Minor correction. But that aside, the vaccine capacity now is poised to increase rapidly. It is already increasing within what capacity the manufacturers have, principally Serum Institute, Bharat Biotech, and now Dr. Reddy's lab, which is manufacturing the Sputnik vaccine. Now, this capacity is going to be further increased by 2 kinds of steps which have been very importantly taken. First of all, the Finance Ministry has worked with various vaccine manufacturers to ensure that they have resources for expansion. This is happening for all the major players. Secondly, the Health Ministry has also said that vaccines which have been approved by top regulators elsewhere in the world can be both imported and manufactured in India. Because of that manufacturing component, we will have soon Johnson & Johnson partnering with Biologically to substantially scale up manufacturing of that vaccine in India. So that will be a huge input coming in. Similarly, Novavax, which is applied for regulatory clearance in the West, once that clearance is obtained, they will also be able to partner with Serum Institute to rapidly scale up. So all of this, enhancing local manufacturing, partnering with international manufacturers here, and importing will allow a substantial scale up of manufacturing of vaccine capacity very soon.
Absolutely. Accept my apologies, sir. The Principal Scientific Advisor. I do cover the economy as well and a slip of the tongue is also the key to the heart. Having said that, sir, many people are looking that Many people are also looking that we will be able to increase our vaccine capacity significantly now that the government has provided with additional funds. They have approved the technology transfer as well that these companies can do with various PSUs. I want to understand from you, our earlier target was that by the month of July, we will be able to vaccinate about 30 crore people. Is that target well within our reach now with the recent decisions that have been taken?
Let's roll back a little bit and look at how vaccination has ramped up. It started with emergency use authorization and healthcare workers and frontline workers getting the vaccine. People at that time extrapolated the rate of vaccination and said, how will we ever be able to meet substantial goals? Then vaccine capacity expanded as also the number, the range of people getting it. Now we are seeing a huge increase in that capacity as well as flexibilities. So we should not extrapolate linearly from current vaccination profiles, but use that as a baseline to see how rapidly it's changing. Now, whether a specific number will be able to be reached in July, or will it be exceeded, or will it be slightly short, remains to be seen. And we will know the answer sometime in May about how that is scaling up. So that May would be a good time to actually extrapolate, given that all these decisions have just been taken a few days ago. I'm very optimistic that it will scale up very rapidly. It will do certainly very well for a combination of reasons.
Absolutely. Having said that, sir, we were talking about the foreign vaccine makers as well that will now be able to come into India. We're of course betting on Novavax as well as Johnson and Johnson, and we're given to understand that Johnson and Johnson has also applied for the import license here in the country. How soon do we expect all the clearances to be given in now that the government has given significant relaxations in terms of trials as well?
There are some very straightforward steps which have been substantially simplified. So I don't see this taking a huge amount of time. It's a matter of days.
Can we expect the clearances to come in the next 2 weeks or so, sir?
If you ask me to guess, I would say that's a reasonable time frame. I don't know the specific details of each application, but that's the kind of time frame we should be looking at.
In terms of pricing, give us a sense of what kind of pricing are we talking about? Because the government, after yesterday's decision, has allowed dual pricing as well. They have asked that states themselves can procure 50% from the vaccine manufacturers, and besides that, vaccine manufacturers can sell in the open market as well. How do you see that working now? Because there are no price caps, do you feel that there's going to be a significant increase in pricing for the vaccines that we will see now? While on one hand, this is going to be good for the vaccine manufacturers, we are incentivizing them. How will you ensure that the vaccine manufacturers, don't see any kind of profiteering while we do allow dual pricing as well?
Thank you. There are two parts to this answer. First, let's look at the ways in which vaccines will be sold in India. There are three components. First, the government's own immunization program for people above 45. The government has said that they will be providing that free of cost, whatever vaccine they get. The second component is the remaining 50% of what has been cleared for marketing. And those can go directly to companies can buy for their employees, for example, or state governments can also buy and provide. Now, there are state governments will buy at a price which they negotiate with the companies, and the companies have to be transparent about this. For example, they cannot have one price for one state and a very different price for another state, even though different states can buy at their own way. So the price has to be both transparent and it has to be reasonable in this time of the pandemic. Even global manufacturers don't give, wherever they are able to market, they don't give profiteering and rapacious prices. So that's not happening, should not happen, and I'm sure that will not be allowed to happen at all. So I don't think that's the major issue.
Having said that, sir, while we're talking about pricing, what about the foreign vaccines that are being brought into the country? For example, Johnson & Johnson, given the fact that there is no price cap, what kind of pricing are we likely to look at for companies such as Johnson & Johnson, and once Novavax also applies for the import licensing?
The kinds of pricing which we have had so far is in the $2 range, as it were. And the kinds of pricing which vaccines are sold abroad in the West are in the $20 range or a little more than that, right? So there's a tenfold difference. What are we going to get here? What can state governments and other private players afford? And what will be the range of the negotiation? We have to see. Typically, vaccines and drugs sold in India are sold at prices substantially lower, especially when there's a bulk market, than what they are sold in the West. So I would not second guess now. I would just wait a little bit and see, but I'm sure that reasonable pricing will be achieved.
When you're saying reasonable pricing, sir, between $2 to $20 range, you yourself said that there is, of course, a tenfold difference. So are we looking at significantly, because India, of course, is a mass market, we're seeing a high number of COVID cases, a huge population as well. The government will be significantly trying to negotiate with these foreign manufacturers as well?
See, keep in mind, that the government's program will increase, or the government will always provide vaccines at no or modest cost. That buffers what the free market can do, and both in terms of economics and in terms of perception. So the government is a very important, honest player in this, who will make sure that, since they are one of the largest buyers internally and soon externally, that the pricing will be very compatible with what is reasonably affordable. What exactly it is remains to be seen.
All right, that would be reassuring for a lot of people who are waiting for these vaccines. Having said that, now you're saying that private players themselves can look at reaching out to the vaccine manufacturers and procure as well. Can we expect in the next few days that the vaccines will be provided from factories to companies to housing societies? Basically, we will see more recipients in the days to come as well?
So keep in mind what the steps are, and I wouldn't say a few days. Companies have to be authorized to sell their vaccines abroad by their regulators of quality. Then they can apply to come here. They have to follow the rules, which is that the first 100 will have to be observed, those who are vaccinated, and they will have to have bridging trials. And that's not such a big problem at all. But those who import vaccines through this route can have all their imported vaccines available in the market, as distinct from those kinds of situations where the government of India is partnering, or companies are partnering in terms of manufacturing here, where 50% would be available in the open market and 50% would be available in the government situation. And so it will take a little more than a few days, but it will happen very rapidly.
Before I let you go, sir, and this is going to be my last question, given the fact that the ball has now also been put in the states' courts, do you expect states to prioritize those people below 45 years of age with comorbidities first? Because you've set a criteria for states as well in terms of their procurement. You've opened the field for the states to be able to decide how and who they want to vaccinate first. So what is going to be the strategy that you expect that the states are going to undertake now that the states have a say in the entire vaccination process as well?
See, we must keep in mind that this is not about states versus center or anything like that. The vaccination program starts from zero and ramps up rapidly, and there are multiple steps in it. And as various logistics and processes become clearer through trial, which has happened already, we are able to now open up in this manner. Now, what states exactly do and who they want to prioritize is something which they need to examine each context. For example, the center in its immunization program will lay stress on both the zones which are under great stress, as well as, in terms of utilization by states in the National Immunization Programme, efficient utilization. Similarly, states will have a set of priorities which will include these kinds of aspects also, I'm sure. So it's up to the states what they do, but they have a lot of flexibility. But I think the routes are very standard about what they are likely to do.
Okay, all right. On that note, sir, I know you're short on time, but thank you very much for joining in and speaking with us today at ET Now. Thank you very much. With that, we're out of time on this edition. We will, of course, be back with more news and updates on the other side.